The ice did not crack when he screamed. It swallowed the sound whole. They had chained Cale to a pillar of frozen stone at the edge of the Ravenspire Glacier. Music where the wind carved the world into knives, and the sky bled a permanent twilight. The iron cuffs around his wrists had already fused to his skin. Frost traced his lashes like silver thorns. Every breath came out as a thin ghost that faded music too quickly. He was not meant to survive the night. The council had called it justice, exiled for treason, abandonment, music for disobedience. They left him bound to the ancient ice where the old wars had once music ended in rivers of frozen blood. The storm thickened. Snow hissed across the ground like restless spirits. Somewhere in the white abyss, something moved. Kyle's head sagged forward. His vision blurred into pale oblivion. He thought of fire, of warmth, of the sound of human voices. Music, he thought of betrayal. Then he heard it. Footsteps, music heavy, deliberate, unafraid of the storm. Welcome to our channel, Beyond the Observable. Here we explore stories that begin where the obvious ends. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell us where you're listening from. That support helps us bring you stories that are deeper and more unsettling every time. Let's begin. Not human. A silhouette emerged through the curtain music of snow. Tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in layered furs stitched with bone clasps and crimson thread. The wind pulled back her hood. Green skin, not dull, but luminous. Against music, the frost. Dark braids woven with metal rings, eyes like molten amber, catching music, what little light the dying sky offered. An orc. She walked as if the glacier belonged to her. Kyle forced his frozen lips to move. "Leave," he music rasped, though it barely formed sound. She stopped a few feet from him, studied him. Her presence was not savage chaos as the human stories claimed. It was controlled, measured, powerful. "You are far music from your fire, human," she said quietly. Her voice was deep, steady, almost curious. Kyle tried to lift his head, failed. "You should not be here." "Music," he managed. She crouched in front of him. The furs shifted, revealing armor beneath. Shaped leather reinforced with dark music, metal plates etched in tribal patterns. At her throat hung a curved obsidian pendant. She reached music out. Her fingers brushed his cheek warm. The warmth shocked him more than the cold. "You are freezing from the inside," she observed. Not mockery assessment. He swallowed painfully. That was the idea. Her amber music eyes flicked to the chains. She traced the frost-covered iron with her fingertips. The metal sizzled faintly at her touch. "Your own people did this," she said. It was not a question. Kaya closed his eyes. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the howl of the storm. Then she did something unexpected. She leaned closer, her breath missed in between them. Music close enough that he could see. Faint scars across her jawline. The marks of music battle, not decoration. "My name is Vyasha," she said. The name felt ancient, powerful. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a broken exhale. "Congratulations!" She ignored the sarcasm. "I have been tracking something beneath this glacier music," she continued. "Something that wakes." Kyle barely processed the words. His body was shutting down. "Music," Vasha's gaze softened almost imperceptibly. "You are music not meant to die here," she said. "You don't know that?" She studied him again as if weighing fate in her palm. Then she made the offer. "I can music free you," she said. "But you will belong to my clan." The words cut through the cold. sharper than wind. He blinked, unsure he heard correctly. "Belong," he whispered. She nodded once. "Not as a slave, not as prey, as bound blood. You would owe life for life, your strength to our cause, your loyalty to me." Her hand pressed against the ice near his chest. Heat radiated from her palm, and the frost began to crack in spiderweb patterns. "Why?" he demanded weakly. Her expression shifted. For a flicker of a second, something vulnerable passed through her eyes. "Because the thing beneath this music ice is not only waking," she said softly, "it is calling to you." A thunderous rumble rolled under the glacier, not from the sky, from below. The ice beneath Kyle trembled. "Music!" Varasha stood swiftly, her posture turning battle-ready. Her silhouette against the storm looked like a warrior carved from myth. She extended her hand toward him. "Choose quickly, music human," she said. "Die as their exile or live as something new." Music the glacier cracked again, louder this time, and something deep beneath the frozen earth answered. The glacier roared, not like cracking ice, like something breathing. Vasha's hand remained extended, toward Kale, steady despite the tremors shaking the frozen pillar behind him. Snow spiraled around them in violent circles, as if the storm itself waited for his answer. Kale stared at her hand. Music green skin dusted with frost, fingers strong, scarred, capable of crushing bone or saving him. "And you said I would belong to your clan." He forced music out, his voice shaking from cold and disbelief. "What does that truly mean?" Vasha did not look away from him. "It means you live," she said, "and you do not walk alone again." The ice beneath music, his boots cracked further. A low vibration climbed through his spine, not entirely from the glacier. Something inside him was responding. Another rumble echoed from below. Closer now, the frozen pillar splintered slightly behind his shoulders. Music, he did not have time. With what little strength remained, Kale lifted his shackled hands toward her. "Do music it," he said. Varasha moved instantly. Her palm slammed against the iron chains. Heat flared from her skin. Music, not fire, but something deeper, like molten stone beneath earth. The metal screamed as frost exploded outward in shards. The cuffs shattered, Kyle collapsed forward, but she caught him before he struck the ground. Her arms were firm around him, solid as the mountains. For a brief, disorienting moment, his freezing body pressed against her warmth. "Thou art fragile," she murmured, "not cry, and you are very warm," he muttered faintly. A small flicker of amusement touched her music lips, gone as quickly as it came. The glacier cracked again, splitting open several yards away. A jagged fissure tore across the ice, revealing a glow beneath, not blue like ice, not white like snow, gold. Vasha stiffened. "It is sooner than I thought," she said under her breath. She shifted Kyle's arm over her shoulder and lifted him with effortless music strength. He tried to stand on his own, but his legs failed. "I cannot carry you far if it breaks fully." "Music," she said. "Can you walk?" "Define walk," he replied weakly. She gave him a sharp look. "Try." Together, they stumbled across the trembling ice. Each music step sent cracks skittering beneath their feet like living veins. The golden light beneath the glacier pulsed brighter, almost rhythmically. Kyle felt it again, not just in the ground, in his music chest. He gasped and clutched at his sternum. Varasha noticed immediately. "Music, you feel it?" "Yes," he admitted, fear threading his voice. "What is it?" "My clan calls it the heart below." "Music," she said. An ancient force buried when the First War ended. It sleeps in cycles. It should not wake for another century. The fissure widened behind them with a thunderous boom. Ice collapsed inward, revealing a swirling column of radiant energy deep below. Kyle staggered. Images flooded his mind. Not memories, visions, a battlefield buried in snow. Orc warriors standing beside humans, a blade forged of light, a betrayal soaked in crimson. "Music!" he cried out. Vasha grabbed his face gently but firmly, forcing him to focus on her amber eyes. "Stay with me, music," she commanded. "It's showing me things," he whispered. "I know. You knew this music would happen." She hesitated, and that hesitation was answer. "Enough. I believed you might be connected." "Music," she said carefully. "When my scouts reported a human left to die above the heart's resting music place, I followed. The heart does not stir without reason." Another shockwave burst upward. The ice beneath them fractured violently, separating them from the safe ridge music ahead. They skidded to a halt at the edge of a widening chasm glowing with golden light. There was no path forward. Varasha turned to him, decision hardening in her expression. "There is no time for full ritual," she said. "But if you are to survive what wakes, the music bond must begin now." She drew a small obsidian blade from her belt. Its edge shimmered faintly. Kale stiffened. "What kind of bond?" "Music, one that ties life to life," she replied. Before he could protest, she sliced her palm in a clean, precise motion. Dark red blood welled instantly, stark against her green skin. She stepped closer. "Do you trust me?" "Music?" she asked. The glacier groaned. The chasm widened another inch. Kyle looked into her eyes. There was no deception there. Only urgency and something else. "Hope, I barely know you," he said, honestly. Her jaw tightened. "But you came back for me," he added. Music that seemed to matter. She held her bleeding palm near his chest. "Place your hand over mine," she instructed. He hesitated only a second before pressing his trembling hand against hers. Her blood was hot. The golden music light below flared violently. The moment their hands touched, energy surged through him like lightning. Not pain, power, raw and ancient. His freezing limbs burned with sudden heat. His vision sharpened. The cold retreated from his bones. Vasha inhaled sharply as if she felt it too. Music to chasm stopped widening. The golden glow shifted. It pulsed once, twice, then steadied. The storm above them weakened as if something had been acknowledged. Kyle stared at their joined hands, breath music coming fast. "What did we just do?" he asked. Wahasha met his gaze, or replacing certainty. "We woke it," she said. Quietly, from deep within the fissure, something began to rise. The light did not music explode. It unfolded. From the golden fissure, something vast and radiant began to rise, not with violence, but with inevitability. The ice around the chasm melted into steam, curling upward in ghost-like spirals. Kale staggered music back, though he did not release Vasha's bloodied hand. A shape formed within the glow, not a creature of flesh, not entirely energy. It resembled a massive suspended heart made of crystal and fire. Veins of molten gold branching outward like roots through the glacier walls. It pulsed, and each pulse echoed inside Kale's chest. Varasha's grip tightened. "It has never manifested like this." "Music," she whispered. "You've seen it before?" Kale asked, his voice steadier now. The bond's warmth coursed through him, replacing the deadly frost. "Only in legend, only as tremors beneath music, the ground." The heart below hovered between them and the abyss, suspended in radiant currents. As it pulsed again, images burst outward in rings of light. This time they both saw them. An ancient battlefield beneath a burning sky. Humans and orcs standing side by side, shields locked. A towering figure of pure gold behind them, blessing their alliance. Then betrayal. A human music blade plunging into an orc leader's back. Chaos. Screams swallowed by snow. Vasha inhaled sharply, her jaw tightening. "That is not our version of history," she said. "It isn't ours either," Kai replied. The heart music flared brighter. A voice reverberated through the air. Not sound, not words, a presence pressing against their minds. Chose. Kyle's knees nearly buckled. "Chosen for what?" he demanded aloud, anger flickering through the fear. "I was sentenced to die." The golden veins along the glacier walls glowed in response. Varasha stepped forward protectively, positioning herself slightly in front of him, despite the radiant force. "If you music mean to test him," she said firmly into the light, "you test me as well." The heart pulsed again. "Bound." The word vibrated between them. Carl felt the connection between his palm and Vasha's flare like a living wire. Their blood had sealed something deeper than survival. The energy, music flowing from the heart, no longer struck him like an outsider. It flowed music into both of them. Suddenly, the golden radiance contracted, focusing into a single beam that struck the ground at their feet. Ice shattered. From within the fractured surface rose a weapon. Music, a blade, long, elegant, forged of translucent crystal, shot through with veins of molten light. Its hilt was wrapped in dark leather music, etched with symbols neither human nor orc. It hovered inches above the ground. Vasha stared at it, or unmistakable in her expression. "The Accord blade," she breathed. "I thought it mythed." Cal felt drawn toward it instinctively. The heart pulsed again together. The word pressed into them like a command. Vasha looked at him slowly. "It will not answer one alone." Music Kel swallowed. "Then we don't approach it alone." Carefully, still connected music by blood, they stepped toward the hovering blade. The air felt heavy, charged. Every movement seemed magnified by destiny music itself. When they reached it, both hesitated. "You first." "Music," Kyle said quietly. Vasha's amber eyes flicked to his. "This is not submission." "I know," he replied. "It is trust." Something shifted in her expression. Respect deeper now. Together they reached out. Music, her larger hand closed around the hilt first. His hand covered hers. The instant their skin touched the weapon, a shock wave erupted outward. The storm above the glacier was ripped apart, clouds scattering in violent spirals. The golden veins across the ice flared like a network of stars. Cale gasped as power surged up his arm, but it did not burn. Jihar harmonized. The same warmth that had spread from their blood bond now aligned with the blade. Glaze straightened, her posture instinctively shifting into that of a warrior holding something sacred. The blade solidified fully, its glow stabilizing. The heart below pulsed slower now, steadier, satisfied, but the ground began to tremble again. This time not from the heart. Varasha's head snapped toward music, the distant ridge. Dark shapes crested the horizon. Orcs, dozens of them, armed, her clan. At their front rode a towering male, orc-clad music in blackened steel, his armor marked with crimson warp paint. His presence radiated authority and fury. Vasha's grip tightened on the blade. "That is," she said under her breath, "my clan's war chief, Kyle glanced at her. I'm guessing he won't be thrilled. He believes humans cannot be trusted, she said. And now he sees one standing beside me with our most sacred weapon. Thor raised his hand, and the war band halted at the ridge edge. His voice carried across. The ice for Asher music, he called. Cold and commanding. Step away from the human. The glacier fell silent. Wahasha did not move. Instead, she angled the accord blade slightly, not in aggression, but in declaration. Music Kyle felt the weight of the moment settle like armor over his shoulders. Thorox's gaze dropped to their joined hands on the blade. His eyes darkened. You have bound yourself to him, the Warokif music said, fury threading through his voice. The usher lifted her chin. Yes, she answered. A ripple of shocked murmurs spread music through the warband. Expression hardened into something dangerous. Then you have chosen exile, he said. The wind rose again, and Kale realized that surviving the ice had only been the beginning. Music, the wind carried the word, exile, like a blade. Vasha did not lower her gaze. Behind the warband shifted uneasily. Their armor gleamed in fractured light from the fading heart below. Some looked at Kale with open hatred, music, others with confusion. A few with something more dangerous. Doughty urged his massive music frostwolf forward a few steps. The beast's breath steamed heavily in the cold air, claws scraping ice. You bound yourself to a human, Thor music said, his voice controlled, but vibrating with restrained fury. Without counsel, without right, without permission, Vasha stood tall. The accord blade resting at music her side, but still held jointly with Kyle. The heart chose, she replied evenly. It manifested music before us. It answered the Bon murmurs rippled again. Throck's eyes flicked to the glowing fissure, now dimmer but still alive beneath the ice. He had seen enough to know this was no trick. The heart does not choose traitors, he said. Kyle stiffened. Traitor, he repeated. Thor's music stare snapped to him. Your kind ended the first alliance. Your kind buried the heart in war. Kyle felt anger rise, but Vasha's thumb pressed subtly against his hand on the blade. A silent warning. Do not escalate. Music, he forced his voice steady. My kind sentenced me to freeze on your sacred ground. I am not their loyal son. The studied him longer than expected. Music, you speak boldly, for prey, the warchief said. I am not prey, Kaya replied. The accord blade pulsed faintly. Music, reacting to the tension. Several warriors shifted their grips on their weapons. Vasha stepped forward, placing herself slightly ahead of Kyle without breaking their shared hold. Him use it is bound blood, she declared. By my hand, by the heart. If you challenge him, you challenge me. The words struck like thunder. Among the orcs, music loyalty to clan was absolute. Loyalty to blood even more so. The dismounted music slowly. His boots hit the ice with heavy finality. He approached alone, signaling his warriors to remain behind. When he stood only a few paces music away, the difference in size between him and Kale was undeniable. There was broader, hardened by decades of war. He looked at Varasha not as a subordinate, but as something more personal. You were meant to lead after me, he said quietly. For her alone, music, you carry your mother's strength. I trained you for command. Carl realized. Then this was not only political, this was music familial. Varasha's jaw tightened. You trained me to protect our future, she said, not to repeat our hatred. The gaze softened for a fraction of a second at the mention of her mother. Then it hardened again. You'll risk everything for a human you met an hour ago. Vasha's eyes flickered just music briefly toward Kyle. It was not an hour, she said. It was fate. Silence fell. The word lingered, heavier than exile. He extended his hand toward the accord blade. The weapon shimmered, but did not reject him. If the heart truly chose music, he said, then prove it. Vasha narrowed her eyes. How? Release the blade, Music Thor commanded. Let it stand between you without touch. If it remains whole, the bond is real. If it fractures, the heart rejects this music union. Kyle felt uncertainty surge through him. What happens if it fractures? He asked quietly. They met his gaze without hesitation. Then you die. Varasha turned slightly, music toward Kale. For the first time since the glacier cracked, doubt shadowed her expression. If the bond is unstable, she murmured, the blade could shatter. And take us with it? He asked. Yes. Behind them, the golden fisher music pulsed once, faint but present. Kyle looked at her, really looked, at the strength in her posture, at the vulnerability she tried to hide, at the warrior who had chosen him when she could have left him to die. You said I would not walk alone, music again, he said softly. Her amber eyes met his. I will not let you fall, she replied. He believed her, slowly, stretched too thin. The crack music deepened. Vasha stepped forward instinctively, but stopped herself, honoring the test. Hold, warned. The blade vibrated violently now, golden energy spiraling around it. The fissure beneath the glacier, music responded, pulsing erratically. Kyle's heart pounded in rhythm with the chaos. This isn't rejection, he realized, aloud. It's imbalance. Vasha looked at him sharply. What do music you mean? The heart was buried because of betrayal, he said, thoughts racing through flashes of the visions they had seen. Human betrayal, orc vengeance. It split trust itself. Music the blade cracked louder. It doesn't need separation, Kyle said urgently. It needs unity. Without waiting for permission, he stepped music forward and grabbed Vyasha's hand again, their fingers locked. Together, they both music reached for the blade at the same time. The moment their hands closed around the hilt simultaneously, the crack sealed in a burst of radiant light. A shockwave rolled across the glacier, music knocking several warriors to one knee. The golden fissure stabilized completely. The accord blade shone brighter than before. Thorok stared at them, stunned. The warb band fell silent. Vasha exhaled, slowly, relief flickering across her face. Kyle met's gaze. We are not your past, he said. The war Archief said nothing for a long moment. Then from deep within the glacier, a new tremor began, stronger than before. Not golden, dark. The expression music shifted from fury to alarm. That, he said gravely, is not the heart. The ice behind the warband began to fracture in jagged black lines. Music, something else, was rising. The black fractures spread like rot beneath glass. The golden glow of the heart below flickered in warning. But the new presence rising through the glacier was different. Heavier, music, colder, hungrier. That turned sharply toward his warband. Form ranks. Music, he commanded. Orc warriors moved instantly. Shields locking, axes raised. The discipline was flawless. Kyle tightened his grip on the accord blade. The warmth of it contrasted violently with the chill now crawling up his spine. What is that? He asked. The jaw hardened. The part of the heart we do not speak of. The ice music behind the warband exploded outward. From the shattered glacier emerged a towering figure of obsidian crystal music and shadow. Veins of dark energy pulsing through its jagged form. Its shape was vaguely humanoid, but elongated, distorted music, as if forged from hatred itself. Where the heart shone with balance, this thing radiated division. The warriors faltered. Vyasha stepped forward beside Kale, shoulders squared. "Music when the alliance broke," she said quietly. Realization dawning. The heart split. "Yes," answered grimly. "Light buried deep, darkness buried deeper." The creature opened its hollow chest, and a wave of black energy surged outward. Music, the front line of orcs braced, but several were thrown back across the ice. Kyle felt the bond between him and Vasha strain under the pressure. The accord blade vibrated violently in their joined hands. Music, it feeds on hatred. He realized the shadow constructs faceless head tilted toward them, sensing the blade, music sensing the bond. It began to move. Each step cracked the glacier. Beneath its weight, Throck roared and charged, first axe blazing with tribal runes. Several warriors followed. Their weapons struck the obsidian form, but the blows barely slowed it. Dark energy lashed outward, sending Thorok skidding across the ice. Varasha inhaled sharply. "We cannot fight it as music enemies." Kai looked at her. "Then we don't." He turned toward the fallen warriors. "Stand together," he shouted. "Not behind her, not behind me. With us." Some hesitated. Music, then bruised, but rising, locked eyes with Kale. For a suspended moment, generations of mistrust balanced on a edge. Then the war Archief planted his axe into the ice and stepped Music to their side. "Clan!" he roared. "With them!" The line reformed. This time not behind Vasha, but beside her. Beside Kyle. The shadow creature shrieked, the sound like cracking stone. The hearts below flared brighter in response, golden light pushing upward through the fissure. Vasha squeezed Kyle's hand once. "We channel it together." Music, he nodded. They raised the accord blade high. Instead of gripping it in dominance, they held it in unity. Music, orc hands, and human hands reached forward, touching the hilt, the flat of the blade, forming a chain of contact. The heart's golden radiance surged upward through the ice, flowing music into the blade. The shadow entity lunged. Kale felt fear spiked through him, but it did not control him. Vasha's presence grounded him, fierce and unwavering. "Now," she whispered. Together, they music drove the blade downward into the glacier. Light erupted, not a narrow beam, a wave. Golden energy burst outward in a dome that collided with the charging darkness. Music where the two forces met, the air itself screamed. Kaio felt memories flash through him. The betrayal, the war, the loss on both sides. He did not push the darkness away with anger. He faced it with acknowledgement. "We remember," he said through clenched music teeth. "But we choose differently." Ferusha's voice rose beside his. "We are not divided." "Music the orc!" warriors shouted as one. Not in rage, but in defiance of the past. The golden wave intensified. Cracks split across the obsidian giant's body. Black veins shattered under the pressure of unity. The creature roared as fractures of music light pierced through its core. With a final thunderous pulse, the shadow construct exploded into fragments that dissolved into harmless ash against the snow. Silence followed. The music glacier stabilized. The black fractures faded. The heart below pulsed once more, steady and whole. The storm clouds above parted, revealing a sky no longer bleeding twilight, but glowing with pale dawn. Kyle collapsed. To music, one knee, breath ragged. Bahasha caught him before he fell fully, her arm firm around his shoulders. "You still stand," she murmured. "So do you," he replied, music managing a faint smile. They approached slowly. The war Archief looked at the cleared battlefield, music then at the human and the warrior who stood together at its center. He knelt, not deeply, not in submission, in recognition. "The heart has spoken," Theox said. "Music, the exile, is ended." Murmurs rippled through the clan, no longer hostile. Vasha looked at Kyle, emotion flickering behind her steady gaze. "You are bound blood," she said softly. "Not only to me, to all of us." Kyle glanced at the rising sun, then back at her. "I was chained here to die," he said. "Instead, I found a future." She extended her hand again, not as a rescuer this time, but as an equal. "Walk at music with us," she said. He took her hand without hesitation. Far beneath the glacier, the heart below glowed brighter than ever before, and deep music within its light, something new stirred. Not darkness, potential. Music, a world that had nearly destroyed itself, had been given another chance. And this time, it would not be divided. If you enjoyed this story, music,